Korea's always been the underdog. And I think rooting for the underdog's success is good for everyone, because that means that everyone has the ability to get on the world stage and present what they do, and be recognized for it. Whether you're Korean, whether you're from Africa, it doesn't matter where you are. If Koreans can do it, then that means that anyone can, as long as you're creating really quality stuff and getting it out there. It means that the world embraces the diversity of good content, of good art, of, it's basically, it means that the world is becoming much more international and global in terms of the embracing and the understanding and the tolerance of diversity. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
GM, and welcome back to the NFT Now podcast. I'm Matt Medved, and today we have a very special guest for what is a very special episode for us. Krista Kim is a Korean-Canadian artist who has been active at the forefront of Web3, wellness, and digital consciousness for more than a decade. Krista is the creator of the Techism movement and a cultural leader for the World Economic Forum, who has collaborated with the likes of Louis Vuitton and Lamborghini, and whose work has been shown widely, from Times Square to the Venice Biennale. As mentioned, this is an incredibly meaningful episode of the NFT Now podcast because it is the first one to live on the Ethereum blockchain. During our keynote fireside chat with Krista at the Gateway Korea just hours ago, we announced that we are tokenizing this podcast episode and airdropping it to all Now Pass holders. Our first piece of tokenized media not only commemorates the Gateway's global expansion into the Asian region, but it will also unlock rewards when the Now Network's member portal launches later this year. This is just the beginning in our journey to build the future of tokenized media, and we could not be more grateful to have you along for the ride. Without any further ado, Krista Kim. Krista Kim making her second appearance on the NFT Now podcast, putting you in rarefied air, coming in live from Seoul. How are you?
I'm so well. Thank you so much. Good morning. Good morning in Korea.
Good morning in Korea. It's great to be here. We've got a lot going on. Korea Blockchain Week, the Gateway Korea. It's also Free Seoul. It's Seoul Fashion Week. What are you excited about coming up this week?
Well, there are two major things, of course, that I'm excited about. The Gateway. It's going to be such an epic show. And for meeting, it was so amazing to see you and Alejandro and Andre yesterday. And, when I saw the plans, I was just blown away. And I cannot wait to see the opening. It's going to be epic. Congratulations on that achievement and your first international foray, and it's only going to be the beginning, and I can't wait for more. So that I'm very excited about. And also for the DDP, there's a project called Lux Poetic Resolution that's curated by Jiu and Lee of Zoom Projects. So I basically am a part of an incredible lineup of the most talented artists. Are so great as well. So I'm basically very, very lucky and grateful to be part of two incredible curated events. And I'm very blessed, and I'm very happy to be back in Seoul. It's been a minute. It's been like a decade since I've been back here.
That's amazing. Well, there's a lot to dive into there. Let's start with the Gateway Korea. We're so excited to showcase your work again. Tell us a bit about what you're showing.
The piece that I'm very happy to exhibit at the Gateway is called Resonance. And Resonance is a series of, the rough diamond that is basically placed in front of my gradients. And it's a meditative piece. So it's part of my meditative series. It's another series after Mirror of the Mind. And I like to basically have us experience the diamond. It's a rough diamond, so it's much like a human being because we're all diamonds in the rough. And diamonds are more beautiful under pressure and under all of the crazy challenges that we experience in our lives. We are actually becoming better people, more beautiful people inside those challenges.
I love that. That's beautiful. And I have been fortunate enough to see the piece, being the curator of the Gateway Korea, and it's beautiful. It's stunning. It really sets an amazing tone, and we're going to be displaying it quite prominently. So,
Thank you so much. I'm very honored to be part of this group. So it's going to be an incredible show and a really strong and bold statement because the Gateway is the top digital art presentation of Seoul Art Week, one of the top. So I'm very, very happy to be part of it. This is an incredible beginning for you guys, and I'm very excited for you as well.
Thank you, Krista. And you actually can speak on this with some authority because you have been showcased at all three gateways now, dating back to Miami 2021 during Basel, last year at the gateway of Web3 Metropolis, where we took over downtown Miami, and now in Gateway Korea. I'd love to just hear a little bit about your experiences with the gateway and just like why that is special to you.
Well, I think that when you really analyze, what we have been through, we've been through a lot, haven't we, Matt? I mean, let's just talk about the community in general. We went through the hype phase. So it was a hype phase where we had the first Miami Gateway project, and that was, incredibly exciting. It was the first that in history in Miami Basel. And I think that showcased, the new movement, the new power of blockchain, to change the ecosystem of creators and this new technology, just really introducing the world to what we stand for, what we're all about. That solidarity was so important. And you really did bring the whole community together. You were the only Web3, event of note of that time. So it's a very historic event as well. And then when you fast forward to now, right now is the bear market. We've gone through a lot of, I think, collective trauma. And I think that right now, what we're doing is we're still showing that solidarity and that, hanging on to the message and hanging on to the true, ethos of what we stand for, and but at a more sophisticated level. It truly is. The show that you're showing now at Seoul, in comparison to the very first one, I mean, just the level of the presentation, how it's curated, how it's placed, how it's presented, and the partnerships that you have brought on board since the first show. It basically shows that we're here and we're not going anywhere. And this is really just the beginning of the movement and of, art on the blockchain to speak of. So this is truly, a bold statement that we're here and we're here to stay. And there's a future ahead of us.
I love that. I love that. Beautiful words and a beautiful sentiment, and something that very much in keeping with what we're trying to achieve by building this here. And, I think one of the things that's so exciting about the gateway is we've always seen the gateway as like this glimpse into this future where digital and physical coexist in creative harmony, where we can get past all the hangups and the and like the misunderstandings and really focus on what matters, which is the art and bringing people together. And so, one thing that was really important for us too, entering a new market like Korea, was ensuring that we also showcase Korean artists and really put that culture front and center. And so, it's a pleasure to have you. And I'd love to hear a bit too about how your own Korean American heritage has influenced your art.
Well, I feel like I'm a global Korean because everyone thinks that I'm also American. I'm actually Canadian, living in America, very happy to be in LA. I recently relocated there from Toronto last year, and I've lived around the world. I've lived in 5 different countries, including Korea, Japan, Singapore, and I spent a lot of time in New York as well, and Toronto, of course. So, from my perspective, I have seen since the 80s how Korean culture has really become was obscure at one point to this incredible global powerhouse of cultural content, and how Korean film and how Korean pop culture music has really taken center stage and really created an incredible following globally, and as really showing that it doesn't matter what language barriers we have, that the power of art can bring us together. And, I'm so amazed by this incredible rise of the popularity of Korean culture and pop culture in particular around the world. So my coming back to Korea after a decade, it's basically a wonderful sort of, it's a homecoming, I think, in many ways, because when I first lived here, it was like right after university, and I was working as a journalist at the Korea Herald newspaper for the culture section. I was writing about other movie stars and artists, and really, really like loving their stories and living vicariously through them, because I always wanted to be an artist. So I was really sort of like hiding behind that role, wearing that mask. But now coming back as the artist, I'm meeting with my editor, Kim, actually for lunch tomorrow. And I remember she sent me an email telling me, Krista, I could see that you're doing what you really love to do, what you're meant to do, and I'm really happy for you. And that was really a beautiful thing. I heard from her a couple of years ago, and now that we're seeing each other, it's wonderful to see that trajectory of my life as well, and how that also sort of like mirrors what Korea has gone through as well, and through finding itself and really identifying, finding its voice, and clearly and proudly expressing that. So it's wonderful, and it's a wonderful reception as well. I'm very honored to be here, and it's nice to be back and to be recognized for what you're passionate about doing.
Absolutely. It's a real full circle moment. And I can empathize, Krista, because as we've talked about, I taught English in South Korea for a year, right outside Seoul, Gimpo, right after my undergraduate. And when I was coming out to Seoul earlier this year to scout venues for the Gateway Korea, that was my first time back in 14 years. And it was amazing to see just how far everything has come and how much Seoul has changed in that time. And I'd love to hear that through your eyes. What have been the biggest things you've noticed, like in terms of the development of Seoul and Korea at large?
Well, here's the thing. What I really love about Seoul is how much they have embraced a more cosmopolitan mindset. Much more open, less provincial, because they were, Korean culture was very provincial in the 80s. And now since then, it has become a global culture, and really embracing global influences as well. And you see many more people from around the world here as well. So I think that having an open-minded sort of like culture that's open to the world that's something that I really appreciate, because when I was visiting throughout my childhood, I always felt like, I never felt like I fit in. And that's just me. I'm an outlier. I'm an artist. Outlier. I'll always be one. But what I was able to observe in Korean culture was Korea can really do very, very well if it would just integrate into the global community, just be more international, more cosmopolitan. And then, of course, I love us also the level of the art appreciation here. The fact that you have the Gateway, the fact that you have Free Soul, the fact that you have all these international artists being appreciated, being featured here, it really shows that not only are you exporting incredible culture that's really world class, you're also inviting it in. And that exchange, I think, for any global city is essential for, that sort of cultural viability of the city and the mindset of the people, because what they're exposed to, they will normalize. And I think that the more high level art, the more international events like the Gateway that we have in Korea ongoing, it's only going to help Koreans in general just understand what's going on and have their finger on the pulse, which is probably the most important thing you want nowadays. You want that sense of being in the now, right? Like, like now media, you just have to know what's going on and have a feeling of that, and have that also happening in your city. So that's impressive.
Absolutely. And one thing I recall really well from my time in Korea was seeing how Korean culture is really embraced by the Asian region at large, whether it's the music, whether it's the dramas and all that. And what I think is really interesting is we are seeing and experiencing sort of an unprecedented moment of global cultural crossover for Korean culture. You have Blackpink headlining Coachella this year, Squid Game's #1 on Netflix, Hybe acquiring Scooter Braun's company, like BTS, one of the biggest bands in the world, like Parasite winning the Oscar for Best Picture, like all of these big milestones that honestly would have been kind of unthinkable a decade ago. I'm curious, like from your perspective, like why do you think Korean culture is enjoying this moment in the global spotlight?
Korea's always been the underdog. Korea is the underdog, and I think rooting for the underdog success is good for everyone because that means that everyone has the ability to get on the world stage and present what they do, and be recognized for it. Whether you're Korean, whether you're from Africa, it doesn't matter where you are. If Koreans can do it, then that means that anyone can, as long as you're creating really quality stuff and getting it out there. It means that the world embraces the diversity of good content, of good art, it's basically, it means that the world is becoming much more international and global in terms of the embracing and the understanding and the tolerance and the embracing and the love of diversity. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And for me, it was very fascinating to see that. And I'm very I'm very proud of how Korea has achieved. But let me tell you, I mean, the government was very, very intentional in investing a large portion of grants to the programming and supporting Korean arts and culture as an ecosystem for export. That's how that's how the jargon, exporting self culture, right? And so that means that a lot of countries, a lot of other smaller countries, can actually learn from this. That you should really support the arts of your culture, and make sure that it's produced at a high level and give it that visibility that it needs to succeed. And I think that it's an exciting thing, and I think that Korea is doing a better job at that than Canada, because I did live in Canada for about 7 years since moving back from Asia, from Singapore in Toronto, from between 2015 and 2022. And I see a huge contrast in just how dynamic and how optimistic and really gung ho Koreans are in supporting their arts and culture. Like, actually, it's much more based on the American style of supporting the arts than and I just think that would be really beneficial for any country like Canada. And I'm just observing.
I love that observation. Korea has also long been a big player in the crypto space. A lot of market makers out here, I remember when I was trading crypto back in 2017, 2018, it would be like, oh, like, when's Korea going to wake up, right? The kimchi premium with Bitcoin, like all of that. I'm curious, it feels like Korea is poised to play a big role in the next cycle when we speak about like Web3 and the intersection of like crypto and culture. And I'm curious, like, what's your perspective there?
100%. Koreans are really at the forefront of Metaverse, crypto, and AI. And those are the three emerging technologies that are really going to be the conversion that changes the world. I have my startup Zero Studio. We are collaborating with an AI company we partnered with called Cleon, and they create the best AI avatars that are real-time, sort of photorealistic, video avatars that supports conversational AI. So we're basically, collaborating with Korean companies only because they have the best tech stack. And these companies are collaborating with, are invested in by Samsung, partnering with NVIDIA. Like, it's really, real sort of industry play. So I think basically Koreans are really good at, the engineering. Computer engineering is very, very strong here. And the people who are leading these startups are very young, and they're super, super smart. And they are, how would you say, they're basically pointed out, right, at each of the top schools, supported. And the startup ecosystem is great because it really does support their talent and supports them financially as well. So Cleon is a great example, and I'm very, very excited and impressed by how global their mindset is. And what I think that going forward, we're going to see a lot of like Metaverse sort of live concert, because I mean, K-pop is such a big thing, and they're throwing concerts all the time. So you're talking about world experts on metaverse and social engagement through the internet. You have Zepeto, the top metaverse in the world, that is, has like millions of people using it per month. So you basically have already a window into the future because they're so experimental and they're not afraid to experiment and really jump into new ideas and and really engage these new concepts, these new use cases. So yes, Zepeto, Cleon, and there are AI companies all over in Korea as well. So it's really a very strong ecosystem that you'll see more global players going forward, supported by companies like Samsung, LG, et cetera, et cetera.
I love that. I love that. We often think about like Korea as almost like the gateway to like the APAC region at large. And I think about like just everything you spoke of, the rise of metaverse adoption, the development of this technology, this rapidly growing global culture. I'm curious, like, even zooming out from just Korea, like how are you thinking about like the Asian region in terms of the future of this technology and also any like interesting trends you're seeing across the region?
Well, I kind of feel like the metaverse is probably a much more comfortable concept for Asians because gaming is so pervasive in the culture, especially with the millennial, Gen Z, and of course Gen Alpha. Like it's a lifestyle thing, right? So I think that the adoption is probably a lot faster here in comparison to the United States, for example. I just feel like if you really want to try new concepts here, a lot of them have been done here. You see a lot of like use cases like I said, metaverse concerts and social engagement at the same time, and creating those it's called fandom, but creating fans social engagement, it's called fandom here. But bringing that into the metaverse and then putting it on blockchain and selling assets and all of these concepts are not new. These are actually experimental here and have been done here for a long time already. So I just feel like Asia is going to be a major place where you're going to see things happen before they are adopted around the world. And it's always been like that, whether it's beauty or technology. These are the industries where, Asia usually is ahead, especially in particularly Korea. So it's going to be interesting. I think that Korea as well becoming more adept at English is basically one of the key things that is improving big time. You see a lot of people who are at the C level of corporations here and startups who actually are proficient in English, which is it's really important because your incredible ideas and innovations, if you can communicate it to the world through English, then that's pretty much going to be a much more, strong position for you. So I think that it's much more international than 10 years ago even. So I love the rapid progression that's happening here. It's really fascinating to see that.
I think you make an excellent point on gaming, especially. Even just from anecdotally from my experience, I remember arriving in Korea in 2008, turning on the television and seeing StarCraft on TV. This was like Twitch before there was Twitch. Like they were so ahead of the curve. And I remember even like when I was teaching my middle school English classes, when we did our careers lesson. I was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I thought everyone was saying programmer. And it turns out they were like, no, teacher, pro gamer. And that was, that was 2008, 2009. And you look at talk about like skating to where the puck is going.
So I'll give you another example about a really innovative TV. You're talking about gaming on TV. Well, what about AI on TV? So basically what Cleon's working on right now is they've created an avatar of a game show host that's an AI conversational model avatar. And it's going to lead gaming like it's a game show, but the AI is leading the actual show. It's going to be on TV on NBC. That's a first
Amazing.
in history. So we're going to see all these use cases. I'm going to let you know. I'll give you all the details so people can check it out. But I'm like, you're right. So hey guys, like this is coming next year. Like all of these shows are going to have AI integration as well. And we have to be ready for that. And now let's get into sovereignty. because, AI sovereignty is so important now that we're really engaging in a world where, our likeness and everything is going to be sort of hijacked through AI. Like, it's going to happen, right? Whether we like it or not. We need to basically protect our sovereignty and our digital identity. And so what I have always been an advocate of is the digital identity sovereignty in the blockchain. And that's why I was drawn to the community, is because, 2018, I read Shoshana Zuboff's book, The Rise of Surveillance Capitalism. And I was so compelled to do something about it because it was a major infraction on human rights and freedoms that these, tech companies, Web2 companies, were taking our data, which is power. Data is power, right? So using blockchain as a way to, secure our identity in the blockchain, and of course have AI agents that protects our identity as well, against AI, against insurgent AI, is going to be the future. So there is a company that I'm working with called Tenbeo, TNBO. We're basically really involved in creating the next sort of identity in the blockchain. I support their technology. It's a heartbeat algorithm, and everyone in the world has a unique heartbeat algorithm. And this algorithm can be stored in the blockchain as your ID. And so as long as you're alive and have a heartbeat, you can open the keys to open the doors to your house. You can, unlock your wallet to your assets. It is a wallet. It is a vault of all of your assets. And you can think about all the digital assets that we'll have going forward in this digital future. And it's something that we can also authenticate our own unique IP and authenticate what is real. So if there is a depiction of me in the media, post AI, we're always going to assume that what we see is fake before it's verified. And so we need to use these, this kind of technology, it's verification with biometrics, to really determine what is real versus what is fake. And without that, there's chaos.
I love that. I love that. And as you know, Krista, that really comports with everything we're building at NFT Now and Now Media, with looking at how do we, in building the future of tokenized media, have verifiable authenticity and ensure that we know what is the truth, because we know the powers and the dangers of AI disinformation. And one thing we often say is, like, AI is never going to be less sophisticated than it is right now, right? It's only going to get more hyper-realistic. It's only going to get more difficult to discern between AI and reality. We're going to need to have a way to differentiate between what is true and what is not. And I love that we're tackling it from two different angles here, with like journalism and publishing here, and with identity on your side.
I mean, this is all something that needs to be done in the community. And I think, especially during this period of Web3, where everyone is sort of building now, right? I think that creating these solutions are so essential, because that's basically going to determine the future viability of Web3, whether or not we can provide real solutions to super, super problems. And AI is a threat only if we're not able to control our own identity and our sovereignty, and knowing what is truth versus what is fake. So that's wonderful. I think that's brilliant that Now Media is working on this. It's so essential. It keeps me up at night sometimes.
Same. And then, on the positive side, obviously, as a creator yourself, I'm curious, just like, how is AI inspiring you? How are you using AI tools to like advance and augment your own art form?
Wow. So I basically have already been using AI. I'm presenting a new continuum project here called Continuum Soul. And when I'm creating a new continuum piece, I'm actually creating these algorithmic paintings that I create through the images of light. And I basically manipulate them through Adobe software. I create a composition, and I create a series of them, which then is animated into the continuum video. So it's like a series of individual artworks that blend into each other, that are animated into one another. And that's how continuum is created. So I actually started experimenting with creating my algorithmic paintings with AI. And surprisingly, I was able to create some incredible new pieces that, I mean, it was just amazing. It really, I loved it. It was so much fun. And I think that, finding a way to engage with AI as a tool, to really, increase your productivity or enhance what you already do or what your practice is. I think every artist should be on top of that and should be using it to their advantage. So I'm very happy to present the first AI sort of soul presentation of Continuum. And I'm going to keep working on those, integrating AI. AI does not animate Continuum like the way that, I mean, it's not there yet, the technology. You can't really pinpoint what you want exactly with the AI yet. I'm sure that within a couple of years, that capability will be there to truly micro control, an animated sequence. But right now, that capability is not there. So the animation part is still by hand on software. There are limitations. But besides that, this is a great question because I really want to touch on this. When I was I spoke at TED 5 months ago in Vancouver, and I was invited to speak on Web3 with Yat Siu and Kevin Aoki. What really struck me from being at TED, my takeaway was that the number one thing was fear of AI. And a lot of those talks were talking about the threat of AI war, how AI deepfakes and, identity, insurgency of our identity. And, there are a lot of like doom and gloom scenarios that were presented. Of course, these are very valid threats. But what was really interesting to me, the fact that blockchain and Web3 had a very minute presence at TED. And TED is where you can really get a litmus test of where the collective is really paying attention, right?
Like the mainstream.
And it really was the mainstream. Correct, it's the mainstream. So the mainstream, what does the mainstream really care about and what are they focusing on? And what really struck me was that people did not understand blockchain and they did not understand decentralization. They basically clumped, NFTs with blockchain, but I'm talking about PFPs. Okay. So people actually think that blockchain are Bored Apes. Now, as much as I respect, Yuga Labs and I'm not a fan of like all of PFPs, frankly. There are only like 2 projects that I actually respect, or 3. But the other, I just don't think that it's viable. But I think that in general, this whole marketing crisis we have of Web3 and NFTs and blockchain, that all people have to be educated on what blockchain is and what the true benefit as a technology it can deliver as a problem solver to many problems in the world, including this, sovereignty, establishing sovereignty in the blockchain against the threat of AI. So people are very much siloed in their specific expertise, whether you are in Web3, whether you are in AI, or whether you are in, Metaverse. The future is the convergence. And I saw how people were not thinking in an integrative fashion. They were thinking, oh, here's the AI problem, and we're not looking outside of AI for the solution. We're just going to talk about the problem. This is now going to start to change. People are going to understand the integrations and the convergence of AI, blockchain, and Metaverse as the emerging technologies that are converging and changing our world. And that's what I spoke about at TED. So now I'm thinking, okay, long term, what do we need to do right now to dispel the fear? Because what we need is for people to support blockchain and to make blockchain useful in their lives. Right now, I think that since we have, a crazy mental health crisis around the world, we should start using these emerging technologies to help mitigate that crisis. So I'm actually creating a project with Deepak Chopra, and this project is to create his AI conversational hyperreal avatar with Cleon. So we're going to create his avatar conversational model. He's written like 90 books. There's a lot of content there, and there are so many icons in the world that can help people. So you can basically talk to Deepak and get advice from him. It's not even about just, these esoteric concepts or concepts of spirituality. I just had an argument with my sister. What advice do you have? He has a wealth of knowledge, and he can basically, just, distill all of this information to the world through the AI avatar in a meaningful way with guardrails and, information that is basically specific to Deepak and his body of work. And I think that technology should be used for these purposes, because mostly when people have a problem or they're stressed, they just need to talk about it. They just need to talk about it. They just get it off their chest and get some really valuable golden nuggets of wisdom. And I think that can help people along the way, instead of having a compounded problem where they're stressed and stressed and stressed, and it reaches a crisis point, which is what's happening.
I love that. And I know that you're going to be speaking at Davos, right? The World Economic Forum. Tell us a little bit about that. And I think it's really important to have a voice like yours at the front lines there.
Thank you so much. So Joseph Fowler, who is the head of arts and culture at the World Economic Forum, he reached out to me about 6 months ago. And I was really honored because he invited me to be a cultural leader for the World Economic Forum, having seen my body of work, and wanted to feature it, Continuum in particular, at the Davos in Tianjin, China. It's called Summer Davos. And he invited me to speak as well about healing in the digital realm. And I went over, that was in June, and it was such an incredible experience. I went to China for the first time since COVID, and went to Beijing for the first time. Tianjin is 3 hours away from Beijing. I was able to go to Beijing and see the Great Wall of China. What I saw, the whole Davos experience for me was, I didn't know what to expect, because I really thought, having been to TED, I thought, oh, it's going to be very much a VC heavy, startup heavy. It's a very sort of let's pitch our new, that kind of atmosphere. But it's not. It really is a very diverse, gathering of experts in all fields. You have academia, artists, business people, and also government leaders, spiritual leaders as well. So I love the diversity. I met a Zen monk from Kyoto. Incredible. I mean, all kinds of incredible people from all walks of life, contributing to making the world a better place. So for me, being a cultural leader at Davos, I think that my whole agenda will be to basically teach and educate people about how the emerging technology through the power of art can actually facilitate healing and well-being. And Deepak Chopra and I are going to be presenting at Davos in Switzerland in January. We're going to be presenting his avatar as the first use case for well-being for AI technology, which then we will bring into the metaverse. And scalability is the issue, right? We want to make sure we reach as many people as possible. The idea is to reach millions of people, if not billions. That's through smartphones. Everyone has this device in their hand. So why not have it accessible on the smartphones? But going forward, be mindful that 3D spatial computing, or metaverse, is truly a technology of the future that's going to be, widely adopted. And I think that that's something we definitely want to do. So not only Deepak, we want to collaborate with many experts and help them get their message out there, scalable through their AI avatar.
I love that. And, I know you've been such a champion for mindfulness and wellness in the digital realm. I think it's something that is incredibly needed in the space. I've spoken a lot about how I feel like the Web3 space is heading for a mental health crisis, if we're not already deeply within one, just because of the unique nature of it. I'm curious, how do you stay grounded, and what sort of recommendations or tips do you have for people to, stay in touch with their spirituality, and also stay, afloat in this quite challenging environment of 24/7 cycles, dopamine like firing off the charts all the time? Like, how do you kind of keep things in line?
Oh, wow. So I have a daily practice of meditation. I practice transcendental meditation. I practice it since 2013. And I believe that that has completely changed my life for the better and has allowed me to handle any issues that pop up in my life with intention and with focus and finding the solutions inside. Because I believe that we can all intuitively find the solutions that we need for any problem that arises within ourselves. And what that allows us to do with transcendental meditation or any meditation practice really is to increase your intuition. The intuition is your compass in life. So if you really give yourself the space to think, allow yourself the silence of moments of contemplation, which have always, helped the great leaders of our world. Even, they always talk about, I took time to think, and the answer came. Go for a walk, do whatever you have to do, exercise, have a healthy physical exercise regimen, and eat, of course, healthy diet. I think that if you really take care of yourself physically and also mentally through, a mindfulness practice or meditation, that's going to really get you far. It's people, I don't think that people really realize how profoundly impactful these small daily practices are for the entire outcome of your choices and your life and how you live your life. So there is a wonderful book that I read recently, and I'm just going to look it up here. I listened to it on Audible, and I have it here in my library. I read The Creative Act by Rick Rubin, Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. And there's another wonderful book, The Surrender Experiment by Michael A. Singer. The Surrender Experiment especially was a wonderful book to read during the bear market because Michael talks about how he went through an incredible crisis with his company and how he was able to surrender, keeping a daily meditative practice, staying with his intuition, and not forcing things, but allowing the universe to deliver the answers to you. Because sometimes things just don't work out and shit happens because the universe has a greater plan. But being open to that, have your antenna up and just be open and mindful and just calm in the moment, living in the moment. It's amazing how, your life unfolds in the right way, than the way it's meant to be, in the best possible way. So those are books that I recommend for anyone going through a hard time, and I know we all are. It's not an easy time, and I went through my share of the bear market blues, and also fraud, fraudulent criminal activity, stealing my crypto, and all these things happened to me in 2022. But you can't have a victim mentality. You should never ever frame yourself as a victim. You have to just move on, pick up, and keep with the daily spiritual practice and just be open to the blessings in your life that come into your life.
Really wise words, and we could do a whole hour just on this topic, and maybe we should in the very near future. I think the space could use it, but there's so much I want to still talk to you about, Krista. I know you are also a big supporter of the digital fashion space. You're a big proponent of it. I know you're a big believer in it. Tell me a little bit about what you're seeing there. I know it's an area that we're very inspired by too. We launched the Now Runway column and vertical on NFT Now to be able to really provide a go-to destination to keep up on what's happening, because it's such a fast-moving space, right? There's so much happening, even in a quote-unquote bear market. So tell me about what you're seeing in the digital fashion space and why it inspires you.
Oh, wow. I'm just really excited. I remember when I did an interview on the Squawk Box in 2021 after Mars House, and I spoke about how we're all going to be living in an augmented reality lifestyle where people will be wearing headsets or glasses, right? And we'll be able to see digital fashion on each other and accessories and the augmented spaces that we live in. And outside, we could see art installed everywhere. Like this reality is happening. It's going to happen. The hardware is catching up in its advancements in the size of the technology that are implanted in the glasses, and all of this technology is advancing. It's only going to get better and better, especially with AI. So I'm actually now a development board member for the Institute of Digital Fashion with Leanne Elliott Young and her partner Kat, and I'm very, very excited about collaborating with them, especially in their incredible group that they put together. Just creating new advancements to really help the ecosystem and evolve. And I think that I think that the hardware is one of the key pain points right now that we need to try and help solve, and create trend and create beautiful eyewear, because I think basically that the future of digital fashion will, and also Web3 adoption will be through fashion. I actually think fashion is going to be the catalyst for everyone to want to put on those glasses, to wear these cool outfits, that they're wearing these new sneakers that are interactive. You could see your friends wearing them as well, and get together. I think young people are going to gather together, and they're going to experience this share AR creativity together as well. Stuff that they co-create, stuff that they want to sell. I mean, it's going to be really amazing. So the fashion shows of the future as well are going to be overlay, sort of like, okay, I'm wearing my glasses at the fashion show, Paris Fashion Week, and I'll be able to see this digital overlay of incredible fashion on top of the models, and that will be part of the digital physical play for fashion brands. And I really hope that, and I really pray that that's going to happen, but fast fashion can all become digital. Like, I really think that there's no need for fast fashion. I think that people should buy high quality basics, right? And then have overlays of crazy stuff. And I think that that's going to be something that people should get into, because I think that younger generations are very, very sustainability minded, very conscious about how fast fashion is ruining the environment, and creating a lot of chaos. Actually, in so many countries, you have like mountains of clothes being shipped there and just laying there to rot, and it's really a crisis point. So I believe that if we create these incredible, like, engaging, beautiful AR sort of solutions for this problem, I think it's going to be great. It's going to be cool. So that's what I'm really excited about.
I love that. Well, look, I think we've got our rapid fire segment coming up, bullish or bearish. First one up, are you bullish or bearish on metaverse adoption?
Bullish.
And how do you think, like, what is that pace that you see? Where do you think, like, that trajectory, what does that trajectory look like?
The main friction point for metaverse adoption is the AR interface. I think that, because the Apple basically, announced the launch of their Vision Pro, right? Now, that's only going to get smaller and more sophisticated in its design, and it's going to become fashion. And there are other projects like XReal, another company in China that creates, has really improved the quality of their glasses and really improved the fidelity and the resolution of what you see through the AR lens. And I think, it's all going to be a question of whether the hardware is going to be advanced fast enough, and the production, like that whole scalability is what's going to determine metaverse mainstream adoption 5 to 10 years. We're going to live in a different world in 10 years for sure. So get on the stem cell game, do life extension, Matt, because you got to live till 200. We got to see all these innovations play out. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not fair. Yeah. We have to live a long life.
We got to see it.
And yeah, totally.
We're way too curious not to.
Exactly. That's my gameplay. I'm into life extension. I want to see all this happen. I'm going to be right front and center of it. I'm just too excited to see it all happen. So yeah, I think Metaverse basically also is going to be integrated onto the blockchain. So you've got Lamina One. Lamina One is Neil Stephenson's company that he founded. Rebecca Barkin is the new CEO. They actually are a partner of ours for Zero Studio. They actually invested in us. So I know that they're creating the layer one protocol for an open metaverse that's on the blockchain and will allow Unity and UN builds onto the blockchain. The number one challenge for creating hyperreal builds on Unity or Unreal in the metaverse was, of course, the cloud computing, and that's a major challenge, but that is being mitigated. So within the next 5 years, we're going to see a huge advancement in the ability for high fidelity creation to be hosted on a platform like Lamina One, and you'll see incredible creations in entertainment and fashion and well-being, which is what we're focused on, education. I think that's the future. And spatial computing, Apple never invests in a project without long-term viability. So I'm definitely betting with Apple on that.
There it is. Bullish or bearish AI art?
Bullish. And I think that art's just going to be art. Like I don't think there's going to be AI art versus metaverse art for that. It's all going to just be art. And I think that not all art is not all AI art is art. We really have to sort of distinguish. I think that I'm bullish. I'm using AI. Everybody's using AI. Like it's going to be mainstream, dude. So I mean, it's going to be a major part of a major tool in the artist's toolbox.
Okay, final one for bullish or bearish. Are you bullish or bearish on creator royalties in Web3?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I'm bullish, okay, because I actually think that platforms like Super Rare are really supporting that. I think that it should be done, and actually, to be very very frank with you, OpenSea and these other companies are greedy, and they're not actually standing by the creators ecosystem that they were supposed to champion. They're really it's a betrayal, and I think that it's greed, and I don't appreciate it. And if anything, if my art can just disappear off of OpenSea, happy. I don't care about OpenSea. I think they could disappear. I don't care. I'd rather just focus on those platforms that actually support artists and artist royalties and artist rights. It should be that way, and we cannot go back to the Spotify model. Like I don't think that the Web2 model is fair, and that's all going to be disrupted with blockchain. So right now you can't see that things are getting better, but in the background people are building, and blockchain is a technology that's opened a Pandora's box, and it's going to change the way the world creates, and the creators economy is going to be the real future. And I know that Lamina One supports creators a creators economy. So let's just say that the creators economy is the future, that you have these fake Web3 companies that are claiming to be Web3 companies, but they're not. They're just, the same Web2 disguised as Web3. So bullish.
There it is. All right, Krista, as we move to a close, what do you got coming up? Anything you didn't mention that you wanna make sure that our listeners have on their radar as we look towards the end of 2023 into 2024 in the world of Krista Kim?
Oh, wow. I just want to say, I want to use this opportunity to thank the community for the support. Thank you for your support. I just really looking forward to, my exhibitions coming up in Seoul, here at Gateway, and also at the DDP. I do have other projects that I can't really talk about in coming up into 2024, but stay tuned on my socials. Please keep in touch, and I'm truly grateful, and thank you very much for this for your time.
It's always a pleasure, Krista. Once again, we are very excited to showcase your work at the Gateway Korea and look forward to everything that you have in the works as well. And until next time on the NFT Now podcast.
Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you to NFT Now. Love you guys. See you soon.
Always a pleasure speaking with Krista. I loved hearing her thoughts on the Korean market for Web3, digital sovereignty and identity, and how she stays grounded in what can be an incredibly challenging space to navigate. We're fortunate to have her kicking off this new era for us. Before we go, I want to recognize everyone who has been rocking with us since we launched the NFT Now podcast back in April 2021, as well as those who have found us along the way. We had no way of knowing what the future held in store for NFT Now, but we have always stayed true to our North Star, empowering the creators of culture and bringing this technology from niche to mainstream. Now, more than 100 episodes in, and embarking on a new frontier of tokenizing this media, I just feel really grateful to be able to showcase so many amazing stories here, and to be able to take this connection between us further than it could ever go in Web2. This may be our first tokenized podcast, but it will be far from our last. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. And we can't wait to show you what's ahead for Now Pass holders and the Now Network. Until next time, see you on the blockchain.